It's Thursday here, and sure, it's Thursday most everywhere, but Thursday afternoon, let's put it that way. And we're supposed to be getting rain here today, which will be great if we get it. But we are here with another conversation. We are here with Daemon Manx, who's an award winning author. And I believe, if I read correctly, you're a horror author, which really strikes out, especially since we just had a horror film fest here.
Yeah, that's right. I do write horror. I do also, travel into the realm of suspense and thriller and a little bit of detective uh, fiction as well. But I think horror would be the best way to describe me. If I was going to label me as anything, I'd call myself a speculative horror author.
There we go. What got you started in the writing?
I started writing at a young age, like probably I started writing before I really should have. That being said, I remember going to see movies like Jaws and Star Wars and thinking, wow, these movies should have a part two of them. This is before the part twos actually came out. So I remember at one point sitting down and writing a continuation to the movie Jaws. Uh, and the one I wrote really wasn't any worse than the ones they came out with. To tell you the truth, I did that the same thing for Star Wars. I didn't hit the mark because Empire Strikes Back blew away anything I had to. But that's like I was maybe 10 years old at that point, and I knew nothing about really how to effectively write. And then as I became a teenager and a young adult, I gravitated to music and started writing lyrics, with some very simple chord progressions, and really found a love for that because I felt I could really convey a message to the listener effectively in those 3 to 5 minute songs, and really concisely get a message out. And eventually, I realized that was not going to be a lifelong ambition of mine, um, and then gravitated towards where I started out, which was writing. And I had by then quite a few stories sitting in the banks, ready to come out. And for a couple years, I just wrote and wrote and wrote a bunch of short stories and novella-sized pieces, and stockpiled them for when I felt like I was ready to start submitting them to the world.
Now, would you say that the movies would be an inspiration for you to start writing, or was there something else that really got you inspired?
Yeah, no, it was the movies. Like horror movies like Jaws, when that came out, and
Mhm.
the suspense of, for me it's not what you see that makes a horror so effective. It's what you don't see. And you never see the shark. You all you hear is dun dun, and then it dun 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 dun, and that suspense. Like I'm like, man, if I could capture that suspense with words, uh, how effective would that be? And then I remember seeing Night of the Living Dead, and then Dawn of the Dead, and that whole zombie genre before it exploded was something like was always in my head because that scared the heck out of me as a kid.
Mhm.
So I was so drawn to it, and I just wanted to write something that could scare people or bring out any emotion that strong.
And can you tell us a little bit about your books without giving away any spoilers? Because we definitely don't want spoilers because send people
I
your way.
Yeah, no, I don't want to give the spoilers either. Um, a lot of my books are based on things that have been inspired by things that have happened to me, um, real life experiences that have then developed as an idea and morphed into an even larger idea. And what I always try to do in my book is have a twist that smacks you in the face. Um, and I'm told I pull that off. And a lot of times I think I pull this off is because I don't know how my books are going to end until I get there. I start writing, the idea starts to happen, and it'll fuse with a secondary idea, sometimes a tertiary idea, and then I'm like, oh, oh yeah, that's what happens. And to me, if I could surprise myself, I think I'm able to effectively surprise the reader. Um, One book in particular, uh, Abigail, which I'm just coming back from Austin from the KillerCon convention, was up for the Splatterpunk Award. I was nominated for that. Jeff Strand actually won the Splatterpunk Award for short story, and I'm definitely honored to be in the running with Jeff Strand.
Hmm.
Amazing author, and I got to meet him and hang out. So Abigail is essentially about a man um, who's grown up marginalized. He's different than other people. He's been made fun of. He's been bullied. He's been, made to feel less than. And he's just about given up, like that he's ever going to be happy. And then one day he comes home at night and he finds a package on his doorstep, and it's a basket with pink blankets, and he opens the blankets, and staring up at him is a pair of reptilian eyes that are violet in color, and the baby blinks and silver flashes out across his face, and Adrian's life is turned upside down from that point. um, and I'm not going to tell you anymore because you'd never know where this story goes, but it's called
Almost,
Abigail.
it almost sounds like it has a bit of a fantasy to it as well.
Yeah, it does. I would say it's got fantasy, science fiction, and horror melded in one. But looking at the book, it's got the picture of a crib with an eerie light behind it and smoke coming out. And the tagline is "Strange things come in small packages." But I would say in this case, don't judge a book by its cover because it's not the average horror story you might think you're getting into. It's it's different. I'm going to just leave it at that.
Well, another thing I have to ask is you were at KillerCon in Austin. How many of these conventions do you normally go to?
You know what? This has my first convention that I ever went to. Um, I have just started. It's just a long story, but um, this was my first convention, and now I have three others set up to go like subsequently right afterwards. Um, my life was a bit complicated prior to this convention, so we're getting underway and doing some traveling now, and quarantines are no longer in effect, and the
Mhm.
world has opened back up, so things are a little less strict. So
Now, another thing I'd like to ask is I know how I felt when I got my first award. How was it when you got your first award? Were you expecting it? Were you excited? How did you react when you got it?
uh, yeah, I was blown away by it. So I received the Hag Award from the Horror Authors Guild last year for the best novelette of the year. Um, and yeah, it was amazing because I didn't expect it. Um, it was the first story that I had actually had published. It came out in a magazine called the Green Shoe Sanctuary, and that alone, was kind of floored me. And then it won uh, a prompt writing contest shortly afterwards, and then it went on to the Hag Awards, and it was actually really serendipitous because the day of the awards actually coincided with my 9-year anniversary of sobriety. So I was also celebrating, 9 years free of addiction, 9 great years of not having to be a prisoner to that, and and then winning the award. It was just, and it was also on Halloween, which is my anniversary. So it was a lot going on, and I know I didn't have a great acceptance speech, and I was a little more emotional than I should have been, but it was really nice. It was really
Well, definitely congratulations on all three of those.
Thank you, thank you.
I know I'm going through one of those struggles right now, but not a different one. Let's put it
It-
that way.
well,
So
struggle is a struggle.
yes. So you also are owner of a publishing company, an
Yeah, that
indie.
yeah, I own an indie publishing company called Last Waltz Publishing. Um, I started this up shortly after I got signed to my first publishing deal last summer. Um, and very quickly did I find out that the company I signed with wasn't going to last much longer. So
Mm,
they went out of business. I got my title back, and I said, well, why don't I open up my own label? Because I could try to get signed to another company and then they could go through the same thing. I said, if I do it, I'm in charge of my own future. And if it goes belly up, I have no one to blame but myself. And I also thought, well, in the process of this, maybe I could help a couple other authors to make sure they don't go through the same thing I did. Um,
hmm
so in the interim, I've been finding authors who strike me as something special, who either approach me or I approach them, see if we hit it off, see what they've got to offer, and we usually strike up a working proposition from there and see what we could do.
Now, with being a publishing company, how often do you take submissions? Because I know some only take them a certain amount of times, some do it all the time, but really take their time looking through them.
Yeah. So what I have done is I've gone by invite at the moment. I've seen authors that I've been interested in, and I have approached them since it's our first, technically our first full year in business. Um, I wanted to go with authors that, I wanted to read myself.
Mm,
That struck me as, well, I could work with them, and they have something special to offer. So I went with that way, like, just by having them submit something to me or me ask for something for that they might be ready to put out to the world. And from there, we have two anthologies that are one is currently taking submissions. We have an anthology running called Tales from the Monoverse. Um, that's actually has to do with one of our authors, Jack Wells, has written a series called The Monochrome Noir. And essentially, that's a detective series that takes place in an alternate version of Los Angeles in 1985 in a world without color, which is quite interesting. Now, it's not completely without color, but the items of color are like the rarities of anything you could get, and people will kill to get their hands on them.
I was fixing to ask, is it like black and white or more of a grayscale?
It's a grayscale world, so uh, you've got varying shades of gray, and the hues, which are items of color, are coveted items, and there's a couple people in the world who have the ability to hue items and take grayscale items and turn them into color, which is it was a really great. I read the first book and I'm like I gotta get it. Part three and part four are due to come out later this year, so really excited about that. Tales from the Monoverse is now accepting submissions. If anybody was interested in writing a story for that, you can go to our website and go to the submissions page at www.lastwaltzpublishing.com.
And that is right here for anybody who's interested. And if people wanted to get a signed copy of your book, where would you want them to go? Would you want them to go through the publishing or your website?
Yeah, I would recommend them to go also to Last Waltz Publishing, just because you can go there and purchase not only any of my books, but any of my authors' books as well. We've got Matt Scott, we've got Diana Olney, Heather Miller, and of course Jack Wells, um, as well as me. So you could get all of those books there. Of course, can go check out my website as well. You can go get them my books there, also at damonmanx.com. But you can only get my books there. You can't get any of our other authors there. So we've got options, right?
Many options.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say, with you starting into this convention world, you are going to meet plenty of authors. I know a lot of them do get tables. I was one for a while before I started doing panels,
Mm,
started doing press for them, but there are tons of authors there. So
yeah.
if you ever do get the chance, walk around and see the show, and you will definitely meet some great people.
Yeah. It was overwhelming. I mean, it was a smaller venue that this one around, this Killer Con,
Hmm.
just because, getting back into it after COVID and all that. Um, but even so, it was a lot, going to the different panels, the different discussions. I had a vendor booth. Um, it was a lot, and I was really very pleased. I got rid of almost every book I brought down, and of course, I came back with nearly as many books that I bought from other authors, and it was fantastic. I met some great people. I got some great pictures.
They are fun. I have to say, they are fun. That's actually how this show got started off of our other show, which deals mainly with conventions. So it's kind of nice combining the two shows together every once in a while. So, like I said, you have the publishing company, you have your own website. What about newsletters? Do you have newsletters for both of them, or?
Yeah, I do. I combined the Last Waltz Publishing and the Damon Manx newsletter as one. It comes out monthly on the first of every month. It's called Left Unsaid, the official Damon Manx Last Waltz newsletter. And you can sign up for that on any of our websites. We have a drop down menu that pops up as soon as you hit the website on the first page of each one, and you submit your contact information there, and it adds you directly to the website. And every month I hook up with other authors to do book swaps, different promotions. So like if you're into getting free books and free stories, I'm sending out a couple hundred free stories every month on my newsletter, which is nice. I like free myself.
And before we do go, is there any words of wisdom that you would give to a struggling writer that wants to become an author?
Yeah, I would say do it because you love it. Uh, don't go chasing the money. Don't write for market. Write what you want to write, and don't worry who is going to latch onto that, because if it's something you love, someone else is going to love it too. And when you get the feedback from somebody who has really been emotionally provoked by something you read and tells you that, like, man, you made me cry, or you made me scream, or I wanted to wring your neck when you killed that character. There's no better feeling. And I think, if you write to market or you're doing it just for the money to try to, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. And although the financial reward may be sweet, I don't think it's as sweet as the true connection you'll make with the reader when you do it from your heart.
Very good words. And they are true, very true. But everyone, I will be back here tomorrow on the Con Hour, and we will be with Eastern Rim. So stay tuned for that show. They have a bunch of comic book authors and artists coming to their show. So everyone, until